and welcome to Unveil Your Brilliance with Angilie Kapoor here on the Win-Win Women TV network, where each week we explore helping you to break free from the illusions that are holding you back. My name is Angilie Kapoor. I am a career and conscious leadership coach, a multi-book author, and inspirational speaker, as well as your host. I'm also the founder of my coaching company, Oversight Global, where we are on a mission to address the consciousness crisis in the world, one leader at a time. Now, a quote from HuffPost says, "It's time for women to rewrite the narrative, shift from self sacrifice to self investment. Embrace your worth, elevate your importance, and watch how the world follows suit." Now, as always, I'd like to share a quote with you that relates to the topic of our episode discussions, and this week is no different. On today's episode, we have an amazing guest joining us to explore the essential role of us women in society. We'll delve into the power of mindset, the art of balance, and the actionable tips to help you bright light, realize your brilliance, and make a lasting impact. But before I bring her on again, just a reminder to keep a lookout for our episode segments, our show pillars, which we make sure we touch on each week. And again, they are brilliant mindset, breaking free, and brilliant strategies during our discussion. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome our special guest for today, spiritual intelligence alchemist Tami Goulet, onto the show. Now, I am so thrilled to have our guest for today here with us. Now, before I bring her on, let me tell you a bit about her. So, Tami is the soulful business alchemist behind Speak Your Soul Magics, has a deep understanding of the challenges women entrepreneurs face with corporate experience of over 25 years and 5+ years as a solopreneur. Tami has mastered the art of balancing multiple roles from parent and spouse to boss and chauffeur. I love that. Her personal journey of self discovery and growth has taught her the importance of shifting one's mindset and prioritizing self care. Tami is now dedicated to empowering women, helping them recognize their worth and take charge of their well being. Now, today, she is here to share her practical tips and insights on how we women can stop internalizing and start embracing our importance in our own lives, putting ourselves at the same level of priority as we put everyone else. So get ready for an engaging, fun, and professional conversation that will empower you even while showering as Tami brings her unique approach to the table. So let's go ahead and welcome Tami to the show. Tami, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to share some really easy, practical tips with people on how they can sort of continue to put themselves in their busyness within their day. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially, as women, we find that we have so many balls in the air and, plates that we're juggling. And it's just we're kind of conformed to put everything and everyone else before ourselves and kind of find out later in life, sometimes, when it's too late, that we should have really been prioritizing ourselves. So I love that we're talking about something like this today. So, I mean, first of all, I come from corporate too. I was actually in healthcare for over 20 years and then also have been an entrepreneur for about the same amount of time, a little over 5 years. So how did you kind of find your passion in kind of addressing this? And I'm sure, like me, it just comes from experience. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
it definitely comes from experience. It comes from, juggling children and their activities along with, the corporate demands on our time, especially as women, we need to, show up a little bit more, and there's a little bit more demand from us, and we need to prove ourselves a little bit more. And then having a spouse and parents and just everything. And it got to the point where I knew I was meant for more, and I wasn't listening to the universe. And the universe decided that I'm going to make you listen, and I'm going to break both your ankles in a freak accident.
Oh, no.
So I ended up sitting on my, for 6 months because I had to heal.
Yeah.
But it was during that time that I was actually forced to look at myself and how I had been putting everybody's other priorities, expectations, desires, dreams at the forefront and completely leaving myself behind.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, well, I can't really blow up my life right now because I'm kind of laid up and I kind of need everybody around me. But how can I shift things? How can
Mhm.
I begin to put myself the same level as I put everybody else? So I went through the dark night of my soul.
Mhm.
And if people don't know what that is, it's a really deep, deep vision quest basically into who you are and all the parts that you have. And so I figured out that I wanted to help people and I wanted to do more to empower others who felt like me, whose to-do lists and priority lists always had yourself at the bottom.
Right. Right, right. So during that time, I mean, for me, the divine intervention for me was me getting laid off. So from a management position. So I hear you when you say, the universe intervened and made you, really kind of look at where you were at and that that's not the direction that it wanted you to go. But for me, I know that I went through an identity crisis because especially, with my job and my job title, I didn't recognize being in that position for so long. I was in that position for 10 years that it had become, who I really was. That without that, and then when I got laid off, I found that without that title, I really was lost. I had this identity crisis. I didn't know who I was all of a sudden. So did you kind of find yourself in the same boat when you had to be laid up for 6 months?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had been the caretaker, the caregiver, the cook, the chauffeur, the problem solver,
Mm-hmm.
the dishwasher loader, right? And then I suddenly had to sit back and go, well, I can't really do any of these things. I mean, I
Right.
can, but not to the same extent. So who am I?
Mm-hmm.
What am I? What is my role and purpose in my family life and in my own life?
Right.
And who am I without all of these other things around that I
Mm-hmm.
would hang my hat on and go, okay, well, I'm doing this. So I'm, check. Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, check. And it came to the point where I couldn't check any of those boxes anymore.
Right.
So the
Right.
identity crisis was huge.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So do you think in working with other women who you help kind of, get to this space of putting themselves first, do you find that they kind of go through a similar situation with having an identity crisis?
Oh, absolutely. Either they've been laid off,
Hmm.
their children have left home, or
Yeah.
their children have transitioned from younger children to teenagers, because
Hmm.
that changes your role too. It could be they've gotten a divorce,
Yeah.
right? So who am I without this spouse or partner? Or their parents have passed away. So
Hmm.
suddenly they feel that they've become the matriarch of the family. And
Right.
how do you deal with that? So it's all about something that has just transitioned in your life that no longer is there, and you suddenly have a void and you're going, oh my God, what do I do? How do
Hmm.
I fill this? How can I shift myself so that maybe I can fill that void a little bit?
Right. Right. That's awesome. So do you have any kind of strategies or like a roadmap that you kind of walk them through that maybe we can go over with the ladies here? Because I'm sure, if they decide to explore prioritizing themselves, they're going to have a similar situation.
Yeah, there's definitely the roadmap, but like everybody's roadmap, your journey, my journey, while there's similarities, they're all very unique.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit more high level, and then we dive deep based upon the person. But it really is taking a look at the individual's place where they're at currently,
Hmm.
and then where do they want to go? Like, why do they feel? For me, it was I felt like I wanted to blow my life up and go somewhere else or do something else, because I wasn't being heard. I wasn't even
Yeah.
listening to me, right? So
Hmm.
it's, where are you? Where do you want to go? And then what is standing in your way? So what are your wants, or want nots, as I like to call them? What are the expectations and the the stories we're telling ourselves that are swirling all around us
Mm-hmm.
that can be easily removed, right? Like, what are you holding on to? What baggage are you holding on to that you, one, don't maybe realize you're holding on to?
Right.
And two, how do you get rid of it, or how do you shift it?
Mm-hmm.
And then, who are your mirrors in your life?
Mm.
What are your triggers, right? So, you know, for me, my belief is that everything that happens in our lives is a reflection of something we either need to heal or grow from, or something that we, you know, can look at and go, oh, that no longer bothers me. And you feel really good when you get like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that used to bother me. Look at how much I've grown. Look at how much I've evolved so that it no longer does, right? And we need to celebrate that a bit more. As
Mm-hmm.
women, we don't celebrate that. So working with me, it's all about celebration as well. It's about really tough conversations, but it's about celebrating the wins when you're like, hey, that doesn't bother me anymore, or
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
react like that so much. And then it's very much to the point where, okay, let's shift. Like, how do you want others to treat you? Well, you first need to treat yourself like that.
Right.
And then the assistance with, as you shift, it ripples out, right? So if you have a
Mm-hmm.
spouse, or if you have children or parents or friends, people tend to start looking at you a little bit differently. So it's also managing that and learning how to walk through that with care and compassion and love, because
Mm-hmm.
some people don't like the fact that you shift and change.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So then, I mean, I have other practical tips that I use for during the day if you want me to share those.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I know we talked about a couple when we were getting ready for this discussion. I know one was about tea and one was about the shower. So yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay. So a really easy and quick way to get yourself sort of at the same level of importance as you put everybody else is when you're preparing your morning smoothie or your coffee or your tea or your cooking or whatever, you set your intentions and you stir them into it,
Hmm.
right? So it's like, I'm going to have a good day today, or that difficult conversation I need to have is going to go really, really well. And then as you're ingesting whatever it was that you set your intentions in, it also starts to transition all your cells.
Yeah.
So your cells and your body and your mind and your soul are all on board with the same plan. And so you walk into the day differently.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And then if I'm having a bad day or I've woken up and I'm like, oh my God, my to-do list, right? Because I mean, everybody's to-do list is, yes.
Hmm.
And I just am like getting overwhelmed. I go into the shower and I imagine all of the angst and the worry and the stresses being washed away when I'm shampooing my hair, when I'm washing my body. And
Hmm.
if it's really a lot, I will actually make a conscious decision to watch the suds go down the drain.
Mm. Okay.
And I imagine each of those suds is carrying with it one of my worries or one of my angst or one of my concerns, and it's being washed away, and the universe is going to help me deal with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
It's amazing that I don't know how people wake up, but I wake up and I'm in that stage between like asleep and awake, but I'm not
Mhm.
quite awake. And in that space, I will tell myself, I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to be productive today. Miracles are going to happen.
Mhm.
Something I've been wanting is going to come surprise me completely out of the blue. Right. Or if I'm worried about something, I will say that it's going to go really well or whatever. And then when I go to bed at night, I do the same, but I do more I am statements.
Mm,
I
okay.
am powerful. I am magical. I am capable. I am, you know, a speaker. I am an author. Something that I've been struggling with, I tell my brain that I am already this, and it helps shift. And as you sleep and dream, it actually starts to imprint it into your subconsciousness.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that too. So I know that one of the things that we wanted to address is how women can stop internalizing. So can you kind of explain to the women that are watching, what do you mean by internalizing?
What I mean by internalizing, and there's various ways that women do it, but someone will say, I'm mad at you,
Hmm.
right? And for me, I always took it and I think, oh my God, I'm bad. And it sits like right here on my heart. And I start thinking, okay, what have I done? What can I do differently? How can I shift this? And what I've realized is I can't control what someone else thinks about me. I can't
Hmm.
control their reaction.
Right.
So if I have done myself checking in, right, because I want to make sure that I haven't done anything. And if I have, I apologize.
Hmm.
But if I haven't, I will then pull it back out of myself and I will put it in a box
Hmm.
outside of myself, like an imaginary cardboard box, whatever basket. It could be a treasure chest, whatever you want to imagine it being.
Hmm.
And I put it in there and I ask the universe, I say, can you help deal with the situation? I have checked in with myself. I believe that I have done nothing, I'm sorry for this person's reaction, but I can't do anything more about it. Can
Hmm.
you help me be able to have a conversation with them so that we can clear the air?
Right.
And sometimes it happens right away and sometimes it doesn't. But the other thing I like to do is when I get overwhelmed with all of my to-do lists and everything, I
Hmm.
will literally pull them all out of me and drop them into that same box and say, I can't handle this right now. It's overwhelming me. Can we please figure out a better way to deal with it?
Hmm.
Because when it's inside of us, it's so big,
Yes.
right? Like we're just this vessel.
Hmm.
Whereas somebody else is a different, like, being out in the universe, it's so much broader and there's so many more opportunities to figure out how to fix things.
Hmm.
We So it just helps not to have it running around in our heads like it likes to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all tend to do that. And I think for women especially, I think it's because all tend to be people pleasers, because we kind of are the caretakers of everything and everyone around us. We want to make sure that we are meeting people's expectations and making sure that their needs are met and things like that. And for me, years ago, when somebody would come up to me and say that they were mad at me, I would kind of do the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd feel bad. I'd start blaming myself. I'd make all of these assumptions. But, one of the things that I've since learned is that a lot of the times how people react has nothing to do with you. And so I really learned to not take things personally, that it's really an issue that they have going on with themselves. And you just happen in that moment to be there and they're taking it out on you. So that's something that I've since learned is if somebody has that type of reaction, first of all, don't take it personally. I mean, do think about, did you do something that would have made them react like that? But most of the time, you didn't do anything. So it's
No,
really something that they're dealing with internally and just unfortunately taking it on you. So yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And it just makes it, the more you recognize and realize that the only person you can control and
is
have
you.
any power over is you,
Hmm.
the more you can see things from a different perspective when somebody has a reaction to something you said, or you have a reaction to something somebody else said,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes that I have used for a long time and still use to this day is from Eleanor Roosevelt. It's the quote where she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission." And that's always been super powerful for me because at the time, that I heard that quote for the first time, I was somebody who anything that happened to me or came my way, I would take that in and internalize it. But it really was powerful because it made me recognize that other people in the world can't make me feel a certain way unless I give them the power to do that. So like you're saying, we can control ourselves and how we think and feel and react. And we need to recognize that because a lot of the times I think that we don't. We just kind of let things happen to us and let them affect us. But we do have the power to decide how they do that. So yeah, to me, that's always been super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another saying that I love, especially when I'm thinking, right, and I've done something wrong and I'm in that mode. I'm like, I've survived 100% of my bad days so far.
Yes.
Right? Because it just gives you that hope that, hey, I've done it before, so I can overcome this again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because, as you know, healing is a spiral.
Yes. It's a continuous journey. You never really arrive.
No, no, exactly.
So yes, can you give the ladies like your top tips on how, if they're watching this and like, yeah, I want to start prioritizing myself and taking control of what's happening to me and in my life. Do you have like maybe two or three things that they can get started with right away to kind of get on that path and going that direction?
One of my exercises that I love to give people is
Mm-hmm.
all about, I ask people to list out their list of priorities. So
Mm-hmm.
that includes family, friends, yourself, all the tasks you have to do, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ask them to take a look at it and I ask them to star which are their top priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, okay, now I want to share a quote with you from Nora Roberts. And Nora Roberts, who's a wonderful author, once said, we all have glass balls and plastic balls, and they're all up in the air and we're all juggling them. The difference between them is if a glass ball bounces, it shatters and breaks.
Right.
If a plastic ball bounces or drops, it bounces and you can catch it again.
Mm-hmm.
So those priorities of like cleaning your house or going to the dentist or needing the dog to be groomed or whatever can become plastic balls, even if they've been sitting on your to-do list for
Years.
days, years. I was going to say years. Um, but but those glass balls are what needs to be taken care of right here, right now. And
Mm-hmm.
they need to be, but they can also shift and change. I mean, obviously, if the dog is walking around with, 9-inch nails and a fur ball, that kind of becomes a little bit of a glass ball. But you need to make sure that your health, your well-being, your self-care, your your energy, your desires are some of those glass balls
Right.
because you eventually will run out of air if you are a plastic ball, and you
Yes.
will eventually like lay flat, or the
Mm.
universe will step in as it did for both of us.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Ladies, do not let divine intervention happen to you because that's when it's really bad.
It's when you're really not listening and it's like,
Exactly. And it's like, I've
really?
thrown everything at you, but you're still not listening. So bam, there you go.
Yeah. And the other one is sometimes you need to do a brain dump,
Mm, okay.
right? So you just like drop everything that's going on in your brain, all of the different priorities you have, your to-do lists, your tasks, your projects that you've been thinking of, just get it out of your head so that you can then come back at it with basically an empty slate.
Yes.
So then you can pick and choose, and make sure you choose yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
You always put everybody else first. You don't need to put yourself first, but you do need to put yourself at the same level as you put everybody else in your life.
Right. 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 Yeah. I love the brain dump part. I've always found that when we have a lot of things rattling in our head, it seems so much bigger than it really is. But it seems like when you really sit down and put things on paper, it doesn't seem so big, and you can like cut the pieces out and kind of move them around and really help you organize things and prioritize. So yeah, I love the strategy of brain dumping and really getting it out of your head and on paper. Because yeah, we tend to make things bigger in our heads than they actually are.
Yes, yes, women are very good at catastrophizing. That was my word about 5 years ago, was catastrophizing.
I know I've heard that several times too. And the first time I heard it was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. I love that word. Because yeah, that's exactly what we do. All right,
Yeah.
Tammy, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. So many nuggets of wisdom and insight that I know the ladies out there can take and run with it and start to prioritize themselves and put themselves at the same level of priority they put everyone and everything else. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Okay, and that is it for today's episode on elevating her impact, women's influence unveiled, with our special guest, spiritual intelligence alchemist Tami Goulet. I want to thank Tammy again for joining us today and for sharing her incredible wisdom and insights with us on how to stop internalizing and how to start embracing our importance in our own lives. And also thank you, beautiful soul, for being here with me today as well. As I've mentioned before, I don't believe in coincidences, and you, bright light, were meant to be here to receive whatever it is you were meant to receive from this episode today. So keep it up, keep showing up, and making progress towards unveiling your brilliance. Now, if you're here with me live, be sure to join me in the second half of the show for Brilliant Connections, where I get to meet you and get to know you, and you're able to ask me any questions you might have from today's episode topic or the show. If you're catching this on replay, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you'll check out our previous episodes as well on winwinwomen.tv/show/unveil your brilliance, as well as join me live next week. Remember, like the quote from HuffPost says, it's time for women to rewrite the narrative, to shift from self sacrifice to self investment. Embrace your worth, elevate your importance, and watch how the world follows suit. I encourage you to start taking action today, lovely lady. The world needs your brilliance. Don't make us wait any longer to bask in your radiance. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next week. My ladies here with me live, I'll see you in just a few seconds.